Hello, as we come to chapter 30 of the Screwtape letters, the penultimate chapter of the book. Again, I just like using the word penultimate whenever I get a chance. We hear Screwtape writing to Wormwood, "I sometimes wonder whether you think you have been sent into the world for your own amusement. I gather, not from your miserably inadequate report, but from that of the infernal police, that the patient's behavior during the first raid was the worst possible. He has been very frightened and thinks himself a great coward, and therefore feels no pride. He has done everything his duty demanded, and perhaps a bit more. Against this disaster, all you can produce on the credit side is a burst of ill temper with a dog that tripped him up, some excessive cigarette smoking, and the forgetting of a prayer." Screwtape warns Wormwood, "If you're proceeding from the enemy's idea of justice and suggesting that your opportunities and intentions should be taken into account, then I'm not sure a charge of heresy does not lie against you. At any rate, you'll soon find that the justice of hell is purely realistic, concerned only with the results. Bring us back food or be food yourself." Again, because the thing about God's justice is we always see that justice is tempered with mercy. Those two things go together and meet perfectly in Jesus Christ. Sometimes they seem like, again, an oxymoron to us, justice and mercy, one or the other. We usually think of mercy as letting people get away with everything, and we think of justice as punishing a person to the maximum extent that's possible. But somewhere in there is that median where justice and mercy can meet. We see that Wormwood seems to be reporting that the only thing that he can really show that he's done anything of value is that to expect good results for the patient's fatigue. But he is warned by Screwtape, "But it won't fall into your hands. Fatigue can produce extreme gentleness and quiet of mind, and even something like vision. If you have often seen men led into anger, malice, and impatience, that is because those men have had efficient tempers. The paradoxical thing that the moderate fatigue is a better soil for peevishness than absolute exhaustion." Again, when we're disquieted, when we're not quite at the place that we want to be, that's where the trouble comes in. Normally, if you're just so absolutely exhausted, done with a day's work or a particularly taxing afternoon or whatever, all you can do is sit down in the chair and veg in front of the TV for a half an hour, you're not going to have the energy to truly live out the dangerous vices that the devil would want us to go. We hear Screwtape telling Wormwood, "Whatever men expect, they soon come to think they have a right to. The sense of disappointment can, with very little skill on our part, be turned into a sense of injury." Again, this is one that we saw earlier, that the slightest offense, a mean word, something like that, is seen immediately as an injury to the person. And so it's entirely possible that what we expect to come to us, if we don't get it, we see as a major disappointment. I've seen kids who got extremely upset because we promised we're going to this particular restaurant. That might have been promised them three or 4 days ago, but then things changed, and suddenly we have to go somewhere else. And it's, but you promised, you said, and the tantrum ensues. Okay, maybe there's a few adults like that too out there. Sometimes we see even that. One of the things that Screwtape is saying, whatever he says, but his inner resolution, not to bear whatever comes to him, but bear it for a reasonable period, and let the reasonable period be shorter than the trial is likely to last. It need not be much shorter. In attacks on patience, chastity, and fortitude, the fun is to make the man yield, just when, had he but known it, relief was almost in sight. Really what that's telling us is stick with it. Stick with fighting against the temptations that we have in life. They don't go on forever. Again, God is more powerful. God can make things work. God will help us. It's just we have to be prepared to wait for that moment. There may be something where you just say, I just can't fight this anymore. Well, the fact of the matter is, yes, you can. We all have that ability in us to keep fighting against sin. There is never a point which we have no choice to sin. There is the point when we choose, finally, just to give in. And as is indicated, that's often, if we had just pushed a little bit farther, something would have come to change the situation. We might be extremely angry, but then we get a call from an old friend that comes in. Something like that happens along the way to be able to take us out of where we were. But if we had just waited rather than giving in to the rash behaviors, things would turn out the way that they should. We see Screwtape saying, presumably these scenes he is now witnessing will not provide material for an intellectual attack on his faith. Your previous failures have put that out of your power. But there is a sort of attack on the emotions which can be tried. It turns on making him feel, when he first sees human remains plastered on a wall, that this is what the world is really like, and that all of his religion has been a fantasy. Again, that's the time when we go with our feelings, when we decide that the feelings are the things that really matter. Not the logical arguments, not the thought, not putting things into a logical way of thinking. We start to think that the feelings are real. Remember, the feelings are transitory. There are other things that are more real. We see that he says here, real means the bare physical facts separated from the elements in the experience that they actually had. That's one way of trying to get a person to be confused about what the real is. It's just the facts. It has nothing to do with how we felt at the particular time. But another way is used in the opposite sense, to mean not the physical facts, which we already know while discussing the matter, but the emotional effects those facts will have on a human consciousness. Again, we see the idea that if we go with either extreme, either we just go with the facts, or if we just go with the emotion, we're really not getting the fullness of the human person. We're really not getting the fullness of what we're meant to be. Again, it's the any time we go to the extremes and skip the middle, that's when the problem comes. Again, if there's any questions, please send it to my email address. Let me know and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.